They say technology makes our lives easier. For work, to learn, to travel, to communicate. But there are things that machines cannot yet do. Things as important as engaging, putting themselves in your shoes, having intuition, or making intelligent decisions. In an increasingly technological world, we need professionals who provide intelligent solutions based on their know-how. Because there are things that technology cannot yet do for you. The human tech.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, thank you very much for joining us today on the 16th of June, 5:30 Madrid time. I would like to introduce today, we have a few new faces in the panel. Obviously, you know already Michael Davis from Almeria. Hello, Michael. Can you listen? Can you hear? Then we have, even though the microphone, Mariette is off, we have Mariette. She's an architect engineer. She's going to bring some information for the clients. Hello, Mariette.
Hello. Hi.
And we have Fernando. He is a specialist. He will explain himself more about what he could offer to clients. He's more about a relocating agent and pretty much a buy to rent option for those of you who are thinking about buying a property in Spain, but probably is better to start renting and hopefully completing within a few years down the line. Right, I'm going to start talking about buying a property in Spain. It's very important, it's very safe, and that's why we would like to give a little bit more of information, clarity about the independent legal advice we normally provide, the conveyancing process and the due diligence, obviously. We'll talk about off-plan property, resales, buying a property through the Spanish courts, and obviously different options you have about renting to buy. The way around. You start renting and then you buy with the option to complete. And then you have different options like applying for a mortgage or a different time of percentages on the purchase. We'll talk later on, if we have the time, relocating to Spain, all the ins and outs about the legal, the tax, and the immigration considerations. Okay, so we're going to start with Michael David. Michael David has been here, obviously practicing law in Spain for more than, I would say 25. I think Michael's always keep more than 25 as the time goes on. It's a privilege to have him on board. He's got a lot of experience, a good reputation of being fully independent, and he normally concentrates more in Andalusia, even though he's got the license to do and represent throughout Spain. I'll pass over to him, and we'll carry on with a different panel. Oh, thank you, Michael.
Hello, Ignacio. Thank you for inviting me again to your webinar. They're great. We've got lots of people calling us about your webinars. Everyone seems to be very happy with them. Okay, so my name's Michael Davis. I'm a Spanish lawyer. My firm's called Davis Abogados, Solicitors and Barristers, and we're based down in the Andalusia area, in Marbella and in Almeria. Alicante and his partners. I've lost count of how many offices they've got now in the Valencia region, but they're all over the Valencia region. Ignacio, how long have I got to talk about the conveyancing process?
If we do 15 minutes maximum each of us,
okay.
Yeah, and because I know you could be talking forever for property, so
okay, yeah. So for all those people that are buying a property in Spain, the first thing I'd like to say is that the procedure is you can purchase a property with 100% safety. You do have to sort of keep to the process that will be indicated by your lawyer, and if you do, you'll find that it's everything will go perfectly okay. So let me take you through a few different steps that I'd always recommend that you take. So number one is I'd start off with choosing a lawyer in Spain. Some people leave it right until they found the property. And at that point, when you've fallen madly in love with the villa and the estate agent's telling you you're going to lose if you don't put a deposit down immediately, it can sometimes be tough to sort of suddenly find a lawyer really, really quickly at that moment, and you may end up just sort of falling in the hands of the lawyer recommended by the agent, which isn't a good idea. So, you know, speak to the British consulate from the UK or from the US consulate from the US. Ask around the area where you're looking at properties, and you'll find the odd name will start coming up for someone that's dependable. You can ask the estate agent as well for a list of recommended solicitors, but don't take their advice as the sort of the main point of call for when choosing a lawyer. Sometimes, you know, 90% of the cases there's going to be no problems. So if there was a conflict of interest, you wouldn't detect it. But sometimes lawyers have to say no to a transaction, and that's when you need someone that's 100% independent and not dependent on an agent that's sending him all the clients. I say normally there's no problems. And the fact that an agent recommends someone doesn't necessarily mean that solicitor's going to be very bad. It's just it's not. It shouldn't be your only recommendation. You shouldn't base your choice just on the recommendation of the agent. So the lawyer is going to tell you that you'll need to set up powers of attorney, which you can do at a Spanish notary, or he can send dual column powers of attorney to be signed in your home country, or you can sign at the consulate in your home country. The powers of an attorney are going to include at least opening up a Spanish bank account, requesting your N.I.E. numbers, and the actual purchase. If you're going to take out a mortgage, you also need to include that specifically in the power of attorney. So once you find a property that you like, the agent's going to ask for a reservation. So typically most agents are going to ask for a reservation of around €3,000 to take the property off the market. It's sort of a necessary evil because they have to differentiate some way the time wasters from the serious buyers. So basically the €3,000, the €5,000 holds the property with that agent while your lawyer goes through all the documentation and moves towards a standard 10% deposit contract. So basically, between the deposit contract and the completion, your lawyer is definitely going to need the power of attorney, the bank account open, and your N.I.E. numbers. The N.I.E. numbers start people think, well, how can I put down money? What if I don't get my N.I.E. number later? No, the N.I.E. number is not like a Residencia. There's no risk of you not obtaining one. The lawyer will just take anywhere between 2 weeks and 6 weeks to get it for you. So basically, once you put down the reservation, you'll put everything in the hands of your lawyer, and your lawyer will start requesting documentation from the seller's lawyer or from the estate agent. So he'll take a look at the title deed, he'll do all normal searches, he'll do all the due diligence as you'd expect in the UK. It's not exactly the same, the process is not exactly the same, but he'll do all the due diligence and move towards a 10% deposit contract. Once you sign the 10% deposit contract, it's normally non-refundable. Normally it contains a clause in it, which I'm bored with the article where it's mentioned in the Spanish Civil Code. But basically, if you put down a deposit and then you don't come through with the rest of the money before on the completion date, you'll lose a deposit. But likewise, if the seller decides not to sell, he'll lose double the deposit. For this reason, in Spain, gazumping, as they know it in the UK, is not as common because there is always money on the line. So go by the recommendation of your lawyer for opening up the Spanish bank account. Different Spanish banks have different deals with different lawyers regarding whether they're going to charge you for the draft when you complete, they don't charge you, etc., etc. So speak to the lawyer about this. So once you move towards 10% deposit contract, normally set a completion date. Anything normal will be anywhere like between 4 weeks and 3 months, but you can obviously do a much longer deposit contract, or you can do a much shorter one. You can complete even within a month in Spain if you put your mind to it. When you complete at the notary, that you don't actually have to be here to complete because your lawyer can complete for you. At that moment, you'll receive the keys and you'll pay the balance of the money. Then the lawyer is going to take care of paying the transfer tax, the notary, the registrar fee, and register the property in your name. And he'll have all his documents back for you within about a month or 2 months. Regarding I'm rushing through it enough here because there's quite a lot of 15 minutes.
That's fine. It's good.
Regarding the expenses, if you buy a second-hand property, if you buy here in Andalusia, we always say that all the taxes and fees are going to come to around 10%. That's because here in Andalusia, transfer tax is 7% on second-hand properties. In the Valencia region, where Ignacio is and where his partner Pedro is, the transfer tax is still 10%, so 3%.
It did change, Michael. It just changed. It just changed
changed.
into 9. just changed into 9. So we're getting
nine.
down
Oh,
here.
very good. Well, you're getting better. Okay, so in the Valencia region, so then we'll talk about all taxes and fees coming to around 12%, because they're just 2% above us on the transfer tax. I mean, I don't really think that that's enough to sort of change one's mind about whether you want to buy in the Valencia area or the Andalucía area, but just be aware there is that 2% difference. Always, any good lawyer that deals with lots of conveyancing in Spain for expats will explain how important it is to make a Spanish will the moment you've signed bought a Spanish property in reference to the Spanish assets. My main expertise is inheritance work, and I've been handling inheritance work all over Spain since 1994. And I can tell you without any doubt whatsoever, making a Spanish will is going to be very important for you. It will save a lot of headaches. A lot of people ask about inheritance tax when they buy property in Spain, or if they don't ask about it, they should do, because obviously inheritance tax is a very big and important thing. If you're sort of elderly and you're buying a property to retire in Spain, thinking about inheritance tax is a must. Both the Valencia region and the Andalucía region are very, very favorable for Group 1 and 2 beneficiaries. That's spouse, children, grandchildren, and parent. The long and short of it, the long story is that you'll pay basically, as long as the beneficiaries are in those groups, in Spain, in Andalucía, Valencia, you'll pay either no tax or almost no tax at all. So that's I think one of the big competing factors for these two regions, Valencia, and Baleares is now exactly just as good, is a big factor to take into consideration, comparing especially to other countries where people retire to at the moment. So that's the inheritance tax side. So then, obviously, once you've purchased your property in Spain, there are a few obligations, very easy to comply with if you remain a non-resident. So if you remain a non-resident, basically, you've got electricity, water, rates, rubbish, and community of owners that your lawyer, if he does his job, will set them all up by direct debit once you've purchased the property. And then once a year, you've got to file a form called non-resident imputed income tax that your lawyer will talk to you about. It's a very small tax that you pay every year. If you become a tax resident, we always say, basically, book a consultation with a tax expert, Ignacio and Pedro from the Valencia region. But I think you do tax consultations for all over Spain, don't you, Ignacio? Now, so definitely, if you become a resident, look into it carefully, because you start being taxed on worldwide income. Right. Some regions in Spain still have wealth tax, and to fear we've done away with wealth tax. I think you've still got got some wealth tax up in the Valencia region, Ignacio?
Yes, this year, Michael, we managed to get 1 million exempt. Okay. And then the 300,000 euros per person. So that's per person. On property, you've got another 300,000 euros. So we're getting better, you know.
Yeah. In Andalucía, we've only got wealth tax now above the 3 million euro solidarity tax. So basically, a couple's got an allowance of 6 million euro. So it's not a problem for most buyers.
Michael, before you go, could you just give a brief, because you've got a lot of experience about off-plan properties?
Okay, so yeah, with off-plan property is something, obviously, Ignacio, me, we actually sort of, this is when our two offices started becoming very, very, with a lot of relationship between them, because we've had a lot of experience with claims against banks and builders when the builders went bust in 2008. It's something that people need to realize, that if they've purchased their property correctly under construction, there isn't actually any risk of losing the money. The key to everything is the bank guarantees. In other words, if you make stage payments on a property under construction, your lawyer, after each payment, must insist on receiving the bank guarantee on the stage payment. Nowadays, unlike in the past, there's normally no problem, and all the large builders will all have their bank guarantees all lined up. So definitely, if you buy under construction, the lawyer actually becomes more important than ever. It is obviously there's more risk in buying a property under construction, more risk of headaches than if you buy something that's finalized. Because I mean, not because of losing your money, because if you've got bank guarantees, there's no risk. It's obviously the completion, the timescales. There's always just more headaches, and that's why, in our case at least, I don't know if it's the case in your case, Ignacio, we actually charge quite a lot more when we're handling a purchase under construction than when it's not under construction, or at least we safeguard our position with a limit of hours and things like that, because it can end up becoming more involved. So with the property under construction, there is a slight difference in taxation as well, because it's not subject to transfer tax, it's subject to VAT. Any property that's new is subject to VAT. So instead of paying, for example, the transfer tax as 7%, instead you pay VAT at 10%, and in addition you've got a 1.2% document tax. So in total there's a 4.2% extra tax than if you buy a second-hand property. Up in the Valencia region, the VAT is the same, 10%, and the document tax is 1.5% instead of the 1.2.
You did move, Michael, now to 1.4.
Oh, they're on the same. So you've done them both reductions at the same time. Okay.
Just a little bit.
They're moving down very slowly. Okay. So the document tax moved down to 1.4, in Andalusia at 1.2. I say they're very small differences. So basically on a new property, the difference between Valencia and Andalusia is almost none at all. There's still people that aren't doing their homework, and they're still in their own mind. They're thinking that Andalusia is much better for inheritance tax than the Valencia region. That's because they're not up to date with the last changes that we had a couple of years ago in the Valencia region that has basically brought them both to the same, almost to the same level of inheritance tax. Is there anything else, Ignacio, that comes to mind?
Right. So you've touched already buying an off property, then a resale. Is there any extra comment you would like to mention? We'll jump on the questions, Michael, that you could then choose, and I invite everyone to start sending us questions, and we can start talking through. Is there anything on the two subjects? Because I would like to mention now, Michael, a bit about the possibility of buying a repossession property as well. That's another way. So we already talked about resale property, off-plan property, buying through the banks or courts. Okay, that's another option. It's a bit more complex, but you could find a good deal. Now, obviously, it's not going to be as good and as straightforward as the situation that Michael explained. So buying a property through an auction, you definitely need to have a lot of attention to everything. Nothing goes smooth, and you will not have the access about getting finance on it. Okay, from my experience. Later on, I will ask Fernando whether this is an opportunity for their company, whether they will be prepared to do a rent to buy property on a repossession property. It will be quite interesting. But you might probably end up doing that in the future, Fernando. But okay, so basically, just a few points here, Mike, before we pass on the option about buying your villa, Michael, because we could discuss now buying your villa, what things you need to bear in mind. Obviously, it will take an average of 1 year approx to get your property built. And Marietta could tell us a little bit more about the pitfalls and things. She could tell us about the value of having an independent architect or architect engineer specialized on the interior or whatever she might recommend. But before we go on that, I would like to mention for investors, because we have a few questions here about buying as an investment as well. Well, obviously you could buy a property as an investment, market price, but you could still end up buying to not just to flip it, just to buy cheap, develop, refurbish, and necessarily you could even leave, rent, or even sell it on. Okay, that's a different business.
Okay, so just one little thing. So now that we talk about the possibility of buying to flip the property or to etc. I don't know how it works up in the Valencia region, but at least down here in Andalusia, you can get a reduced rate of transfer tax if you set yourself up with your accounting and you set yourself up correctly as a professional that buys and sells properties. you can actually get a reduced rate of transfer tax. And instead of paying the 7% in Andalusia, we pay 2%. There is conditional. There's a series of conditions that you have to meet to be able to get the reduced transfer tax. But if you're going to sort of, if you're going to do more than one property, it's definitely worth looking into. Here, at least here in Andalusia, they've just reduced. One of the conditions used to be that you have to resell within 5 years, and they've just gone and reduced it in Andalusia to 2 years. I don't know if it's is it similar? Is it the same over there?
Yeah, it's similar. We used to have this buy to sell, Michael, when you were registered through the tax office, you're a company. We used to have for companies buying and selling 3%, Michael. So it will be 3%. That will be the tax you will pay when you flip it.
When you flip it. Yeah. And how long do you have up there at the moment?
I think about from the top of my head, I think it was 2 or 3 years maximum.
Yeah, because here it was 5 years, and they've just reduced
Not
it.
that much. Yeah.
They've just reduced it to 2 years now. So that is that limitation. And also, you have to sell from an accounting point of view and the right of bill fee in the tax office and things like that.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
But it does work well, and you don't have to set up a company here. It can be just a private professional.
Just individual.
Yeah. So the only thing is they've just limited this 2 year. We had lots of clients that used to like doing that, and the 2 year window is because sometimes you buy, they refurbish, and by the time they refurbish and then put it on the market, the 2 years is a bit tight now.
But Michael, you know what I think about I mean, you've got the opportunity as an individual to buy a property, and you are going to face the problem of doing your income tax returns. So pretty much buying the property, getting all your invoice in place, refurbishing, and then flipping and selling on. Okay, you could do as a resident, but it is from an income tax point of view, from a tax inspection, I find it much more debatable from the taxman rather than a company. So if you're really going to do business about it, I probably my recommend clients, depending on the volume, not individuals, to set up a company for it, because it's a proper business. If we're just buying, refurbishing, and sell it on once in a while, it's okay. But I did see a lot of issues with the taxman, because Michael, when they do have an inspection, they try to dig on everything.
Yeah.
So
also the thing is, I mean, sometimes for professional house flippers, this deal with the 2% transfer tax was the good deal. But sometimes clients would come in, they'd say they were going to buy a property and they were going to flip it, etc. And they wanted to know about the transfer tax, this reduction, etc. But in most of their cases, it actually worked out much better if they didn't set themselves up as a business, instead of doing it as a private individual, bought the property, moved into the property, keep it the 3 years, and then they avoid all the capital gains tax. Because if you use the other system, because it was a business, you couldn't avoid the capital gains tax. So there was always like this trade-off.
And even if you're over 65, even better.
Yeah, if you're over 65, you don't. Yes, right. That's right. You don't have to reinvest. Yeah.
Yeah, but is it good? I mean, it's good for clients to tell us what is their goals, and we can see what is more efficient, as Michael was saying: buying, waiting 3 years, selling on, reinvesting the full amount, etc., etc.
Maybe one day we should do, because we're going into a niche now, instead of it being maybe one day we should do one specifically for investors, and then we talk about
that's true.
But the situation regarding investors and what their conditions are. We'll see. Otherwise, we'll go off the topic a little bit.
Right. So we basically, Michael, you can start looking through the questions for the answers later on. We already talked about buying a property. One of the first advice we'll say: get your independent lawyer who looks after your interest. That's the most valuable tip of advice I will give you, because Michael, myself, and Pedro, we've been through a lot of difficulties and situations when we didn't handle the case from the very first day, and then you don't want to go into litigation. You want your money safe. You want to play safe, and you want to have a good picture of your relocation. Now, I'm going to pass over to Mariette. She's an architect. Well, she will introduce herself better than myself, but she is an architect specialist on interior design. But there is certain things that she will help you if you're trying to buy a property, a villa or renovating your property here, things that you need to bear in mind from a technical point of view. Okay, Mariette, I'll pass it over to you, and then we'll jump on with Fernando. Thank you.
Hi, Ignacio, thank you so much for the opportunity, and hi everyone. I am Mariate Lopez. I am an interior designer based in Alicante. So today what I would like to share with you is some factors that you need to consider and to keep in mind in case you want to buy a property in Spain. So, of course, there are many options of getting a property in Spain, but I'm going to concentrate in two ones. So, first of all, I'm going to concentrate in if you want to buy a plot and you want to build your own house, or in case you want to buy an existing property and to make a renovation. So for both of them, I'm going to talk about who has to be involved, so which person you need to arrive to the final point, and what do you need to know before you buy a plot or you buy a property to be renovated. So first of all, I'm going to start about who is involved in case you want to build your house. So you will need an architect, so is the one who is going to design the house. You need a technical direction team, the ones who are going to check that the work is done correctly. Planning permission, so all the permissions have to be approved. They need to be approved before building start. A construction company, so they are in charge to build the house. Interior designer that works an independent way, but also at the same time with an architect that is going to help you with the layout, materials, finishes, lighting, and furniture. And suppliers, so the ones who they are going to provide you kitchens, material, lighting, flooring. Next step, I'm going to tell you about what do you need to know before you get a plot. So you need to know planning restriction, because not every plot allows you to build the same kind of house. You need to have very clear the budget planning. So building a house costs more than just buying a land. Project timeline. So building a house takes time from the design to the final construction. And you need, and I think it's very important, to have a project management. So it's a trusted person on site that makes all the process easier. And then I'm going to talk also about who is going to be involved and needs to be involved if you buy a house to be renovated. So you need an interior designer who is the one who is going to help you turn a property into a home and help with permissions and all the taxes. A construction company, which are in charge to carry out of the renovation work, and the supplier, so the supplier for the kitchen, material, bathroom, furniture, lighting. And and what do you need to know before you think to renovate a house? You need to know, it's very important to know the property condition. So check the real condition of the property. It's also very important to have a renovation budget. So you have to buy the house, but you also have to put in budget that you have to make this renovation. The property potential, so you need to know to look beyond just not the interior, but also what is the location today and how can be the location tomorrow. And of course, again, a project management, which is a trusted person on site who can help you to make all the process easier. So understanding all these important factors from the very beginning can help you to avoid unexpected surprises in the future. So thank you, Ignacio. I don't know if you have any question or...
Okay, what we're going to do, Mariette, we're going to just ask the audience to start sending questions specific for you and how can you help them. Okay, basically, what is the value that you, because not everyone is going to buy a villa. No everyone is going to need, so pretty much how can you help? Um, that's a good question. I don't know. Do you need to add anything here for this stage, Mariette, or in a later stage now?
If you want, I can answer the question now. I can
Yes.
do it later when you.
Okay.
Okay, if I want, how I could help potential
Done.
clients. So many international buyers find very difficult to make important decisions when they are in a different country. So whether if they are thinking to buy a plot or they are thinking to make a renovation, I can help them to guide them through all the project. Also, I can help them to see the potential of the property, the condition of the property if they think to renovate a house. Of course, to help with designs, advice on materials, finishes, and coordinate all the suppliers and supervise all the work on site. So most importantly, is that I can become this trusted person that it is on site. Sometimes for many clients, I become like the eyes of the client on site when they cannot be there by themselves. So, in fact, just to finish, my goal is simply to make everything easier. So to make all the process easier for my clients and to provide support, and of course to make them feel like they feel their house here to feel at home in Spain, let's say.
Okay.
I think.
That's very good, Marietta. One thing I find very interesting, I'm sure Michael and Fernando will share this comment, is finding the right builder. Finding the right builder that won't let you down, the one that will perform his word and he will be brilliant. That's a challenge even for Spanish. So I imagine for expat is even a bit more difficult. And sometimes they find the one that might be of their home country, etc., etc. So I really think you can help a lot of people, helping them to select the right budget, value for money. I think that's really where you might be very much worth on this equation. What do you think?
Yes, because when foreign people come to Spain, even for Spanish people, they find some, maybe they have an idea on their mind, but you have a budget, of course. So I can tell them where to go. We go here or we go there, depend of the budget of a person. And also sometimes I find people that they feel like not confident. They feel like I'm going here, but they are not many people trust people in Spain. They are thinking like, and like I am a foreigner, maybe they are going to put more, to make me spend more money. So to have a person beside you that know the prices on site can avoid you of surprises when you in your final budget, let's say.
Okay. Okay, Mariette, thank you very much. I'm sure you're
Thank
having
you
some
so
questions here. I'm happy for you to share, even though your email is on the screen, but some people might want to have it in the chat. So even for Michael and for yourself, feel free to share it with them. Now I'm going to pass over to Fernando. He is a very interesting person to know when you're really interested to buy a property in Spain. You might you might not want to withdraw your money, because one of the most important things is to do tax planning, because sometimes we don't realize how expensive it could be if you didn't do your homework about withdrawing money. if you just become a tax resident in Spain, probably is more efficient while you are being no tax resident, still buying a property while you are no tax resident in Spain, and probably just do planning and become tax resident whenever is convenient for you and you start spending more than 183 days. Well, Fernando has a company about relocation, relocationcenters.com, and he could explain to you what he offers to make the possible purchase easier, because it could be just renting or it could end up on completion on eventually. So over to you, Fernando.
Thank you, Ignacio. Well, I'm Fernando Navarro. I just came from the United States about 4 years ago, and I've been pretty much all around the world. I used to work on the hospitality industry on the real estate side. I worked for Hilton, for Marriott, for Melia also. And basically, I found in Alicante the place I want to retire, I want to live on. It has everything that I wanted, and I love it. But when I moved here about 4 years ago, I found it was not easy to find an apartment to rent or to move. I was pretty much making calls from 9 o'clock in the morning to 7 p.m. at night and getting maybe 2 or 3 appointments a week, because the first thing they ask you when you call for to rent a property is, do you have a job in Spain? And if you don't have a job in Spain, they don't even want to talk to you. Or they ask, if they want to talk to you, they will say, okay, that's fine, but we will require either a 6 months or a 12 months upfront payment for the rent. So eventually I did that. That was pretty much the only way to get an apartment rented, and I love it. But with the years, I've been working on the real estate agents, first with Remax, and now I'm with EXP, which is an American company. It's one of the global partners. And with the help of a fund, we now have a product that is just perfect for foreigners, and basically allows you to find an apartment, any apartment that you like in the market. It can be sold by the owner, or it can be sold by an agency. We just have to check if the price of the apartment is on market. It cannot be overpriced, obviously. And if the apartment is on market, basically the fund will buy the property and will rent it to the tenant. The tenant has to pay only a 5% down payment up front, and he can buy the property starting on the 3 years and 1 day. So 3 years they have to rent it, and then after 3 years, 1 day, they can buy it. And the contract is for 7 years. So it has many advantages against the regular rental contract. First, this is 7 years instead of 5. And then you can also, they cannot give you problems with pets or kids, which is also a big problem here in Spain, to find somebody that accepts pets or kids. So any apartment that you like in the market, just send us the advertising. We check it out, say, okay, this is fine. Once it is fine, they just talk to the owner, and if they want to go forward, our fund will make an offer. The last one we made was pretty much on price. They don't even negotiate it. We're talking about apartments only. They don't deal with the fund that we deal right now, don't deal with chalets or homes. They have to be an apartment between $150,000 and $400,000 purchase price. And 30% of the money that they pay on rental, we go towards principal. So it's an amazing way to start the process in Spain, get your feet wet. Most of the Americans that are buying look at this like a try before you buy, and also is a much better deal than a regular rental. Here in Spain, you might have a 5-year rental contract, but if the owner needs the apartment for themselves or their kids or somebody in their family, they have the right to actually get the apartment back. So that doesn't want to work also with the contract that we handle. And right now we're working with the top destinations for foreigners. We work with Malaga, we work with Alicante, Valencia, and Madrid, and all the cities that are around those places. So for example, in Alicante, Muchamel is okay, San Vicente is okay, Elche is okay, and the same thing with all the other capitals. And at the end of the 3 or 7 years, whenever they decide to move on from renter to an owner, they can use a regular loan. So they have 3 to 7 years to get their act together, get the financing, making sure that that is the apartment that they want. And if they don't want to buy it, it's just a long-term rental that they couldn't have any other way.
Fernando, I just so I understand. So how do you set the price then that you sell to the client at the end of the rental?
Yes, is the purchase price plus is a up price of 3.6% average per year that the price go up. But currently in Spain, most of the and all of the destinations we're talking about are gaining about 12 to 15% increase on price over the last few years. So the buyer will always be ahead.
Yeah. So how does the fund make the money then? Because obviously they've got about 10% in expenses to purchase the property originally, and then it has to be sold again to the party 3 or 4 years later. So there's another 10% there. So how does the fund make the money?
Okay.
Because
Yes,
it's like 10%.
yes, they're a socimi, so they do not have to pay the taxes. Well, they have a 90% deduction or 92%, so
Okay.
they pay around less than 1%.
Okay.
So it's very, very small.
Okay.
And basically the investors on the fund, they're getting a return right now of 8 to 9%, which is really good. The rental prices in Spain are quite high. In average, they're about 40% higher than they used to be about 3 to 4 years ago. So it's a good return. And the people and the persons that do not go ahead with the purchase, obviously the fund get it back and they can sell it much higher than they purchased a few years back.
Yeah, it's probably, Michael, it's probably a business that I'm sure they've done their numbers and it works. Why you're not, Fernando, opening it up for more cities? Because you are pretty much, the fund is new, or is it possible more funds to become interested and more people to have access to this opportunity?
Well, we think that this model will grow a lot because the past model where the funds used to buy apartments, fix them up, and then sell them again is no longer viable. Exactly because what Michael just said. If you purchase an apartment today for 400, you will pay 445, and then you're going to spend about 1,500 to 1,800
So,
per square meter to refurnish. So then it will be competing with furnished, finished luxury apartments. So
Fernando,
that's why we believe it's the
what's
way
the
to go.
advantage? What's the advantage for the fund though in doing it this way and not simply buying properties that they find themselves, renting them out, and selling them at the end of the process? I can only see one advantage, which is to have a keen tenant from the beginning. But other than that, it's all disadvantages because at the end of the day, if they buy the property, you're limited that you can only increase the property by 3.5% a year, and you've also lost 30. You've lost 30% of the rental money because you have to deduct it from the purchase price. So,
Well, for them, obviously, they are not using their money. They are using investors' money, and that's how they can grow. If they were using their own money, obviously there is a cap. This way, the investors that put the money in, they will get their money back 7, 8, 9% per year. So the fund can actually keep purchasing with the investors' money.
Yeah, and so far, Fernando, how good you're progressing with these? I mean, what is the variety of clients that you have? What are the reasons why, in general, they are contracting your services? Is it because they just prefer to rent and they are not really committed to purchase? Oh, but because I know Americans prefer to rent, I agree, but
Yes,
probably British prefer to buy.
correct.
So, and Spaniards, they prefer to buy. So it depends on a cultural thing, isn't it? So
Yes.
what is your feedback from the clients?
Well, first, it's kind of like try before you buy. And second, you have a lot of protections that you do not have when you purchase your own home. For example, the fund will do all the due diligence, making sure that the apartment is 100% correct to buy. And
Mm,
that's a lot of work here in Spain.
mm,
So you know that the work is being done. You are not paying for lawyers to do all that job,
mm,
all the work. And then when you take possession, you are actually treated as a tenant. So, for example, Gio, one of the clients that you actually service as a lawyer, They moved in and a couple things didn't work. They have a couple leaks. The water heater didn't work, and they're like, "Well, who's gonna be taking care of?" And they basically the fund has to because they are tenants, so they have all the tenants' rights until they purchase the apartments.
Yeah, at the end of the day, is I really see, Michael, the option for those who really like to rent, and they probably like to rent a very nice property. I mean, I don't know
Correct.
whether it's happening, Michael, in Andalusia. Renting is not probably very, very cheap, especially if you want to buy, if you want to do it in a specific property, because we all want to rent, but very specific, you know. Probably this way. I don't know, it's a bit more expensive, but you might select the property that you want to be renting with a little bit more money or not, because I mean it will be a comparison. How much is the rental in that community, in that area, and how much, and the possibility of purchasing if you ever want to. Because we have a lot of clients, especially Americans, they are not very sure about buying. So I really think that's where probably the value is for those who might prefer renting, Michael, but not renting any property, because you know, you and me, we try to rent and we might always see something that doesn't click, or you know, the size, the quality, value for money. So probably this is an equation as an alternative rather than withdrawing money and making a decision in a later stage, I guess. You know, isn't it, Fernando? Because and sometimes, Michael, probably from a financial point of view, if you know, sometimes banks are not very easy granting money. You need to withdraw it, and if you're making a lot of money with your investment, I see a tax situation. So some people, I find myself that they need to withdraw. It means a lot of money. It needs a lot of money. Now, in Spain, financing 80% of the valuation only for residents are progressing. For non-resident, we are having trouble because they give you 60%. So this way, I know it might be a bit expensive to start paying this, but you're buying residency tax years, then you're applying for a valuation in 7 years, and probably you don't withdraw money as long as it's efficient for you. So I think it's a business thing that could only be interested. That's my feeling, Michael. That's my feeling from what I heard from people. You know, it's
Yes,
not
that's
with
what, well, looking at loans right now, actually, we have up to 75% for foreigners. And on the other side, on the rent to buy, to qualify for the program, the income requirement is only 2,500 euros a month. So basically, anybody in the United States, anybody on the UK will qualify. Half of Latin Americans that are moving to this way of qualify.
Sorry, Fernando. So at the moment of purchase, so do you actually offer mortgages as well to the buyers if they want to through yourself?
Correct.
Okay, I see.
Yes,
Oh,
we
that's
do
good.
that too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Right, Michael, we're going to jump on to Fernando. Sorry, we're going to jump on to the questions. I don't know whether Michael did select any that refers to Andalusia, because I've seen a few. But basically, we're going to try to. Um, um, right. If we want to go, Michael, with Eugen, using a buyer's agent versus a lawyer, obviously,
Okay.
Michael explained. You want to go on that?
So I think most people will imagine what I'm going to say about this. So using an agent to do the conveyance instead of using a lawyer. Well, in reality, it's no different really than using your hairdresser to inject Botox for your wrinkles, or going to your barber get your tooth out. It's not a good idea. I mean, it's, you know, the agent's job is simply to sell the property, to match up a buyer and a seller. They're not qualified to do the conveyance and to do all the legal checks to make sure the property is in order. In fact, in most areas of Spain, there's actually no qualification whatsoever needed to become an agent. There are agents that are excellent, and I know some very knowledgeable agents, but precisely because they're knowledgeable, they wouldn't approach trying to sell that they can do the conveyance. It's not the right way to go. You need someone independent, because remember, the buyer and the seller's agent, they're both at the end of the day normally receiving their fee exclusively from the seller, and you as a buyer need to have somebody independent working for you to make sure it's all in good order. That's what I'd say on that.
Okay. Any other question related to Andalusia, Michael?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, 1743, it's not specific to Andalusia, but this Lisa is asking, the 3K up to 5K initial amount, is it different from the 10% deposit? I might have missed it, but how at this time do you get protection from the sellers changing their mind at this stage? Okay, so this isn't, I've explained it as a generalization. In other words, the normal and standard thing that nobody would be sort of worried about, if you like, because it's just the normal, would be for the agent, once you've picked a property, he asks for a small reservation, 3,000 or 5,000 euro, and he holds the property. Okay, so at that point, you'd speak to your solicitor that you've already got lined up, and you'd say, look, the agent's saying that he's not going to take the property off until I put down the 3,000, 5,000, sorry, 3,000 or 5,000. What do I do? Well, the lawyer, who will know all the agents in the area, will say, well, okay, why? Because none of the agents that I know in my area, who I deal with all the time, is going to run away with 3,000 euro. But that's why you need to have the lawyer lined up, so because he'll know who those agents are. Now, the reservation is like a necessary evil. It's not that it's perfect, because you'll hand over the reservation. The full 10% deposit contract is what holds the transaction together, and that's what your lawyer's going to prepare. And once that's signed, everything will be foul-proof because all the checks will have been made. The other thing's a necessary evil to keep the deal together. Now, the problem with that is that at the end of the day, if your lawyer decides the paperwork's not correct, you'll simply get your 3,000 or 5,000 euro back, as long as you've asked the lawyer who the agent is in advance. Okay, I'm not saying that you'll always get it back if you don't ask your lawyer, who's the one that's going to be able to tell you whether they're trustworthy for the 3,000 or 5,000 euro. But likewise, the way I always see it is that 3,000 or 5,000 euro is not strong enough to hold the deal together either. In other words, if the seller decides to pull the rug and you've only got 3,000, it's very difficult to hold that deal together. And if I was the buyer's lawyer, I'd just say, well, get your money back and we're done. It's the 10% deposit contract that holds the whole thing together, because then basically if the buyer pulls out, they lose double the deposit. If the seller pulls out, they have to hand it back doubled. And again, this doesn't always have to be exactly like this. That's why you have to speak to your lawyer, line him up. Why? We handle lots of high value properties in Marbella, and if you've got a property that's 2 million euro and you ask as the seller that you want a 200,000 euro deposit coming into your account, the buyer's going to say absolutely no way. Okay, so in those cases, what do you normally do? Well, you settle on a smaller deposit of 20, 30,000 euro, enough to hold the deal together for it to be painful to lose, but you don't insist on the 200,000 euro, because that money is going to go into an account. It would either the seller's account or the seller's lawyer's account, or it has to go to somebody's account, and it's not. So you don't. When the properties are very high value, you normally don't do the 10% deposit. 10% is the standard sort of deposit if you're dealing with a 300,000 euro property, 200,000, 400,000, 500,000, and after that it starts being negotiable what the sort of deposit that you do. So I'll say with this, the key is to getting a lawyer. Now, people sometimes ask us why we don't handle conveyancing outside of Andalusia, around our Marbella office and our Majaca and Almeria office. Why? Because for conveyancing, I believe that you do need local knowledge. The same as why our inheritance work, I handle it all over the Spain. Well, Ignacio knows, and when we've got a conveyancing up in the Valencia region, we always recommend a firm up there, which in this case is always Ignacio and Pedro. Inheritance work we do handle all over the place because we don't need local knowledge. But for the conveyancing, you really need to know who all the players are, who all the agents are, who the notaries are, who the registrars are, the town hall. You need to sort of be there on the spot. I don't know what you think about that, Ignacio, or But that, and then locally, there's different ways of doing things regarding the 10% deposit, whether it's a €3,000 reservation and this sort of
Right, Michael. Let's move on. We have here another interesting question from Margaret. She's from the US. She's worried about the Coopers, but the easiest thing, if you're buying a property, you are non-resident. You're going to come in and out. What I highly recommend to everyone is to have an alarm system. It shouldn't cost you a lot of money, probably 50 euros a month. And that really protects you because if something goes wrong, you've got 24 hours agent looking after your property and sending the police. So for those who are a bit scared, Michael, about the occupier size and that, I really find it very simple to avoid this problem. Sometimes the reason why is because you just don't look after your property. You pretty much, um, undermine what potential problems you might end up having. You don't have an alarm system, they break into, then you go and move into the holiday homes but it's not that normal. I think it's bad publicity, Michael, isn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's more people are more alarmed than what the reality is. But of course, we do see cases in Spain. If somebody sort of moves into your property and you don't sort of call the police within 48 hours, they start having occupation. I mean, for example, it's not, people get really alarmed, but it's not really that extended, but it can be a problem. For example, when we handle probate now, we always carry, like in our boots of our car as well, in our office we always have a whole lot of IP cameras so that whenever we handle a probate and there's been like an old lady that's been living in a property all on her own and she's had a carer, etc., if they've got internet in the house, we always try to just to go in and we put an IP camera next to the door inside with a movement. Why? Because people find out that somebody's passed away, the cleaning lady, the lady next door, and they move in. And if they move in, I've got to pay them to leave. And that's the problem. I've got to pay them €3,000-4,000 to get them out. So we do take that precaution, but it's not sort of something that's really extended. But I say for lawyers that we deal with a lot, they deal with lots of inheritance work, and we do, for example, take that precaution. So it is a reality. It is a reality, but it's not like there are thousands of properties that are being occupied all the time. You have to be very unlucky for it to happen, unless it's something with an inheritance cases, it's more delicate because of when somebody on their own passed away, all the street knows that's a bit more delicate situation.
Okay, we have another question from Mariette. Mariette, I don't know if you've just read it. Is about things that your company could do. I don't know if you've checked the one I'm talking about.
What's the time? The time stamp on it?
Let me just see here. I think I just lost it again, Michael. He said it was for Mariette, but we're getting so many that for Mariette, here we go, 604. Will you or someone, Mariette, on your team assist with the renovation of a home? I mean, I think you are pretty much the person that look after all the, I will call it
Yes.
agents, yeah? If I buy a property, but it needs to be modernized, like a better kitchen and bathroom, is it something you could do for them or supervise?
Yes, of course, I can make the works and supervise and coordinate all the suppliers. Yes, of course, it's something that if you want to do like a refresh of the house and just painting, lacquer doors, changing bathrooms and kitchen, that's of course what we do. Yes.
Mariette, basically, so you will be like the lawyer. We do our job protecting the client. You will be protecting the client from these aggressive construction situation about choosing tiles, choosing the electrician, the plumber. Because it's a difficult one. I mean, who do I trust? Who do
Yeah.
I choose? And you've got reputable people that they don't let you down. Is that correct?
Exactly. And also I'm the person in charge to go with the client to see all the tiles, bathroom, kitchen. Um, so I am the one in charge to go with them, and they can find on me a trusted person. And of course, I always ask them which is what do you want to do, which is your budget, because depend of how much they would like to spend, we go to this place or another place. So I make an individual, so
So,
not it just
so Mariette, basically,
Ignacio.
for me to understand, we hire the services of an architect engineer for your fees, and then we are able to choose everything we obviously like, and you put on top of it to make decisions. But that really, the relationship between the provider and the client is straight. It doesn't go through you. So if I want to buy the tiles, you present me three budgets or whatever I want to do, and then you give us the opinion. We pay the provider, full stop. Then if you choose the electrician, you give us different people of electric or energy, because somebody here, Jen, was asking about energy ratings, renovating a property to raise the energy rating. Is that something you could advise?
Yes, of course, as well. I mean, each client can tell me what they need, and in a independent way of providers, I go to depend if they want if what they need. I go with them and ask for a different budget. So I mean, it depends, but I always ask to different ones, and I show my clients, you want this one, you want the other one. So, but I work together with them without any problem. And I see that someone asked also about that in Spain they find many properties having poor energy. Yes, of course, we can change also this, because we can renovate the windows, we can replace windows, we can make a new isolation, we can put solar panels, and also now we are using a lot in the aerothermal system. So all these things change a lot and give quality to the new energy. I mean, not as poor as before the houses were.
Okay, and very last to finish up, because we're having questions and questions. Some people are moving to Barcelona. I always say the same. If you're relocating into Spain, try to do it in advance. Try to do tax planning as well. Some people, Michael, might ask about wealth tax over there, income tax return, etc. Just to organize a video conference, a consultation, for example, with our firm or any that you want to deal with, and do a tax simulation. How much would it cost me with this scenario? How much would, and then you can have figures on the table. Then I always recommend to get to know Spain. Spain in general is beautiful. You can feel better in one place rather than the other one, or just to shop around and rent and see around. So I think a tax planning simulation is unfortunately key for all of us. We all need to pay tax, unfortunately, and the better advice you get, probably the better for you.
Okay,
And
Ignacio, can I touch on that one? That's the one, that's Lisa Schulman, yes? It's
yeah,
1854. Okay, she's asking two questions. She's saying, well, basically, she's looking at buying a property in Barcelona. And I've been in trouble with this before, but Barcelona is a dreadful place for inheritance tax. I mean, it's, I say, our work is mainly inheritance work. And people wouldn't believe how bad inheritance tax is up there compared to Andalucía, the Valencia region, and the Baleares. And we've had really high net buyers buy really expensive properties there without realizing the difference in inheritance tax for their kids, whereas if they'd bought that same property down in Andalucía, in Marbella, in Seville, or up in the Valencia region. So definitely think twice about buying in Barcelona if you're thinking about leaving the assets later on to your children, spouse, or grandchildren that have great benefits if they're up in one of these other other regions. But the Barcelona region for inheritance tax is about basically the worst in Spain at the moment. And then regarding the other question about the 100% tax that our President Pedro Sanchez mentioned a few months ago and created front page newspaper articles in the UK, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It was mentioned, it was done during some regional elections in Spain when he was trying to keep the communists in his government happy, and since then it hasn't been mentioned again. So it looks like the 100% tax on non-EU residents buying properties in Spain is not actually going to go anywhere. But he hasn't said it's not going to go anywhere. It's just nothing seems to have happened since he made that comment.
Okay, well, Michael, Fernando, and Marietta, if you please put your email here for the people who are still staying here with us. You could watch this video back from tomorrow. So Juan Fran is going to share it in our website about live webinars. You might have, we've been having, Michael, we already have 6 years of webinars in our, it seems like it was yesterday, but it's more than
we got going during the COVID, remember, because we felt so lonely.
So it was very good. It was very good. People are very happy. They always come and say, Ignacio, Pedro, we know you before even you met me here. So it's nice. They watch the videos, they learn. All this material is here for you to take advantage from it. Don't fall into traps and make mistakes. We're here to help. Michael has a lot of experience. We have a lot of experience. Fernando is a relocating agent as well. He could help you with a lot of questions. And Mariette, probably to help you to make the right decisions. It's a challenge to find somebody to repair your property, even for us. So thank you, Mariette, for offering that. And thank you all for your time and putting up with us again, some of you, more than 6 years, Michael. So I'm going to pass over to Juan Fran to share a video with you. And we are probably going to meet you back again if you're willing to meet us again through this channel in July, Michael. We're going to take some few weeks off, 1 week off, because it's a bank holiday here in Alicante. I'm sure Mariette and Fernando might do as well. And Michael, thank you for your time. Fernando, thank you. Mariette, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And for your expertise and time. See you soon and take care.
Bye.
Over to
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Buying a property in Spain. There are many reasons to purchase a property in Spain. The climate, the food, the culture, or simply to enjoy life. If you already see yourself buying the house of your dreams in the Mediterranean, it is important to be cautious and follow a series of steps. First, prepare a budget and take into account all the possible expenses. Remember to add transfer tax or VAT to the sale price, as well as legal fees, notary fees, and land registry fees. And even if it was love at first sight, do not rush or sign anything. The most important thing, especially if you're not yet a Spanish resident, is to hire an independent lawyer, a specialist who speaks your language and solely defends your interests. Together, you can review the characteristics of the house, should it have pending charges, negotiate a mortgage with the banks, and you will always be up to date throughout the whole process. But most importantly, fall in love with your property and do things by the book. Your new life starts there. Pellicer and Heredia, international lawyers.